Good evening. This is the Wednesday, March 26, 2025 meeting of the Finance Committee. We are currently in the Public Safety Complex at 576 Pleasant Street in the training room. We're also online by way of a Zoom link, which can be found on the website. We are a committee of 7. We have 5 physically in attendance, 1 joining us online via Zoom. That's 6. Quorum is 4. I declare we have a quorum and we're open for business. I think it would be appropriate to note, we did before the meeting officially started, to welcome our colleague and Finance Committee member, Tim Lynn, who is courageously joining us via Zoom and recuperating from a bad fall. So, Tim, we appreciate you making the effort to join us tonight on an important meeting, and we'll try to be efficient so that you can go back to therapy. So thank you for joining us. First order of business are the meeting minutes of March 19th that have been sent to everyone. Thank again our clerk for a very detailed accounting of the meeting. We have been blessed for as long as I can recall of having great clerks, not to 1 second take anything away from you, but Tony and Jeremy always capture in a few pages exactly what took place that evening. So you had tough shoes to follow, but you've done even more so, Jeff. We appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks, Mark.
So is there comments, motions, anything of the like?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
This motion's been made, second. Any discussion? All in favor? We got, unfortunately, or fortunately, we need to do a roll call because Tim is online. So,
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Ben?
Yes.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
Mark votes yes. Now that they have been approved, if you don't mind, I'd like to direct your attention to page 2, where unfortunately Jeff made a good accounting of a question that I raised last week about something being in a budget twice. It's always nice to be right, but it's better to be big when you're wrong. And I want to go on record as saying that I was mistaken. I raised the question. Unfortunately, that's not the case. I think the question was directed toward Heather as town administrator and Travis as director of public works. That is not the case. I'm happy to say it's not the case. I'm also disappointed that it's not the case because it would have been a nice $175,000 pickup to the budget deficit. So, so my corrections, my apologies, and thank you, and to Travis in his absence, and to Heather. So now we have 2 reserve fund transfers that you've all been sent those. They happen to be up on the screen right now, and Heather, I guess they kind of went through you and through DPW, and so you have a little bit of a lot of knowledge and a little handle in this, so you want to walk us through it?
I do, and I do have an email from Travis just so I can supplement what I know from this. So back on Monday night, when the Capital Improvement Committee met with the Select Board's recommendation, when the DPW had proposed, or Capital had in their report, a lift, the mechanical lift they use in the garage for the DPW has been down and out for quite some time now. And it's in urgent need to get it fulfilled as soon as possible. So instead of waiting till town meeting, the idea was that this is a need that needs to be fulfilled now if possible, so it should go to the reserve fund request or FinCom for those funds. So it's here before you this evening. I'm just going to read you a little bit of what Travis has here, give a couple updates, and then happy to do my best answering any questions. So the vehicle lift and associated apparati, this was the item that was discussed at the CIPC meeting where we spoke of the capital needs for the DPW. Unfortunately, since we met, the cost has gone up fairly significantly. I'll add that we're not at this time requesting the full amount to cover the cost. Recreation Committee voted at their last meeting and approved to cover $2,000 of the cost. Our request is to cover a sum of $12,883, which would be the remaining balance after the portion which Recreation has agreed to cover. So the amount they're asking for is $12,883. Another caveat piece he sent slightly after that was that when he reached out just to update the price, they did notify him that the price is going to have another price increase on April 14th. So the longer we wait to purchase this, the more expensive it's going to be. Totally understanding that there's only so.
What's that price increase gonna be?
He doesn't have a price increase, but it's already gone up once. It's likely going to keep going up.
Just let me add a comment, like, I deal with a lot of vendors like this. You can't base it on that. You can say, well, yeah, the price is gonna increase, but without a quote. His quote is dated January. It's now 2 months down the road, 60 days later, and we say it's gonna go up X amount in April. I mean, that's nice to say, but you need a number. This is a big number. It's not 10, it's not, $10. It's 14 grand. Is it gonna go to 20 grand? Is it gonna go to 25 grand? Is it gonna go to 50 grand? I think you should get a better handle on that.
Okay, these are great questions, Jeremy. I'm happy to ask them. I don't know the answer to the specific question. What I can tell you, though, is they've been needing a lift for quite some time, and it continues to be that they still need a lift. I understand that there's only, approximately 28,000, give or take, in the reserve fund. That being said, the past several years, we've always ended with a substantial amount in the reserve fund. We are getting closer and closer to May 1st, which is when we can do year-end transfers. So we just have to make it through that next 30 days. And the good news is, once you start getting into the months of April, mostly anything you need to do is usually a billable of 30 net days, so you have some time to do some action. So that is all I have on this one.
So let me just interject to formalize this. Robert rules typically is there's a motion and a second and then discussion. At the chair's prerogative, I'm going to suspend those rules, and I think it's going to lead to a better motion if we have the discussion on the front end. So, Ben, go ahead.
You have the previous quote,
This is what I have.
so that's the current quote, so we don't know what it went up by either, so.
If I recall,
It was $12,243,
okay,
and we rounded it up in the Capital Improvement Planning Committee report to $12,500.
The initial quote was $12,243?
Yes.
This quote's dated 1/23/25, and it's for $14,883. So he submitted that to you before January 23rd.
No, actually, we got the number maybe 4 weeks ago.
Okay.
So we were back and forth between 10,000 pound, 12,000 pound, 14,000 pound, 18,000 pound, 2-rail, 4-post, et cetera. And the number that landed the night that we were finalizing our committee report was 12,243.
Are we sure this is a 12,000, not a 14,000? It says Pro 14. I don't know. I don't know the number.
no, I think that's the model, if I recall from the discussion.
Okay.
So here's my position on this, and I sent you the reserve fund transfers,
Yep.
and I also sent you a copy of the CIPC committee report. And I indicated that the two may, involve one another, so I wanted you to have both of those. And that the report has been submitted to the select board, so to the extent I can say so, I think it's a public document, so you were shared that. When it comes to the reserve fund, it's basically of an extraordinary, unforeseen nature that has an emergent nature to it. And whenever Heather, to her credit, sends out a particular reserve fund transfer, she always sends us out the text from the Division of Local Services. And it says the definition of emergent falls to the Finance Committee. So I would submit to you that this vehicle lift went through the normal process. It went through the Capital Improvements Planning Committee as a capital request. At the time that it went through that normal process, which as our report indicates, we supported it. We put it forward as a worthy project, and we suggested that the money be taken out of capital depreciation fund. My point is, if it's emergent now, coming before the reserve fund, when the option to come to before the reserve fund back in January existed, why did it not come to the Finance Committee then? Why did it go through the normal process? And it was not rejected. It was approved. And it was approved by way of capital depreciation. You recall back in November at the special town meeting when we had $638,000 of free cash, $138,000 was designated to two stabilizations funds, one the capital depreciation for $69,000, one to the stabilization for $69,000. It was put in that particular capital depreciation for the very reason in which we all said, we think that there'll be $10,000, $15,000, $18,000 asks coming forward, so we should be prepared to have the money in the capital depreciation fund. We put the money there, it was available, the request was made, the CIPC committee approved it, we put it forward to the select board recommending capital depreciation, and I dare say they didn't like the recommended funding, so they pushed it back to the finance committee to treat it as a reserve fund transfer. I don't think that's how it should work. I don't think if you don't like one funding source, you go to the next one. This is either an emergent issue or it's not, and I would maintain that it's not. If it goes through, as I think it will, special town meeting, he'll have it in 5 weeks. He's been without it, or the DPW that is, has been without it for 10 weeks already. So I don't understand what characterizes it suddenly as emergent. I'm going to get ahead of myself, and I'm going to say I'm going to vote no, because I think the CIPC did its job. I think Travis did his job by putting it in front of the CIPC committee, and it was approved. And now it's back to us because of the funding source issue. That shouldn't be why it comes to us.
A question, just a clarification question. So at this time, we do not have a working lift?
That's my understanding.
Right. And that's been the case, we think, for about 10 weeks?
Yeah, and you raise a good point, and as you know, I don't mean to go here, I know you watch the CAPC meetings, lots of people do, and that's why they're recorded and televised, so people can have that particular information. That was one of our motivations to go to the select board, we're recommending it, is that the one you have is not operable. So let's move as quickly as we can, but I don't think it quickly as we can has to revert back to the reserve fund. So I'm opposed to it.
I guess I apologize, I didn't read all the notes from the select board. Is there some commentary on why that the select board chose not to follow the capital budget's recommendation? If there's $70,000 in that account?
There's
Or
$106,000 in it.
Thank you for clarification.
And keep in mind that it has 106,000, this only has 28. So if
And
we.
we're asking for 27 too tonight for these two.
Right. And you know as well as I do, sometimes we have some reserve fund cash left over. Shame on us that we don't use it all, but it's nice that we have it available in the event that we do need it. We've got 3 months left. There's litigation in front of the select board, which oftentimes requests are made for us for legal. I imagine the legal budget is over budgeted already. There are water main breaks that I've been told that they, at some point, could actually go beyond the capacity of the water department. Maybe, maybe not, but maybe, in which case they come back to this department. I think we should reserve our funds for more emergent issues. If this had been rejected by the Capital Improvements Planning Committee, that's a whole different story. It wasn't. It was endorsed, enthusiastically endorsed. In fact, many of the CIPC committee members did all sort of research to get it to where it is. So I just think it's in the wrong place right now. I think it was in the right place Monday night.
Can I answer Ben's question?
Excuse me?
Can I answer Ben's question?
Yeah.
So I can't speak for the select board. What I can tell you is, my recommendation was to look at reserve fund for this. And the reason being, if you watch the capital meeting, you'll see a lot of the discussion about how to fund all of these very much needed projects. My concern is that if we put out projects on the ballot at the same time we're doing an operating override, we're going to pull the attention away from the operating override and potentially decrease the successfulness of the much-needed funds to all of the departments. So by trying to pull as many things and fund them elsewhere other than even the capital depreciation fund, then it would free up other things that are suggested to go to a capital or debt exclusion and be able to pull some of those resources from the capital depreciation fund. So that was my suggestion, to look to the reserve fund first for this, rather than pulling, even though it's a smaller number, from capital depreciation, because that would free up that sum of funds, and then you'd be able to pull other things, like 1 year of the police out of it or something else. That was my logic, Ben.
Okay, no.
And I think that, the select board acknowledged that it was my recommendation on Monday for the reserve fund. So that's why it's here tonight.
So, just to add to that, your opinion is it's better to deplete our reserve fund tonight with 25% of the year left?
So I would say this, Jeremy, at the time I made the recommendation on Monday, the second reserve fund didn't exist.
So the 14,296 was not there.
It was not yet on the table. I knew there was concerns on the DPW side. I didn't know at what point it was going to come to fruition. And I had been checking in, and as of last week, they were still good and not needing a reserve. So that, I did not have that information when I had made that recommendation on Monday.
And just the reserve fund right now, as of today, has how much in it?
28,000.
And these two total 27,179. So you're going to be left with $810, $820.
If I may, Mark, the second item, not to get away from this, the second item is also DPW, and that's to repair the small loader, right?
Yes. And I did know that was going to come at some point. I didn't know at what point they were going to request it, or if it was going to come forward as a reserve or just go as a year-end or a line item. So, did you want to review that one first before making decisions on the first one, Mark?
Say again?
Did you want to review the second one that Jeff is referencing before taking any votes?
Actually,
I'm at sixes and sevens of that, whether or not we should reserve, speak to the second one before the first. I'd probably defer to the committee. My personal preference is to vote one at a time.
Yeah, no, I'm good. It was just a point of question on about the second one, so I'm good.
One question I have is that it looks like there's still 8,318 in the DPW fund. Is there a reason we're not depleting that first?
So they wouldn't have enough to purchase.
No, I understand, but they could adjust the requested amount.
So, yes, but if you wipe that out, then you've wiped out everything they have for the purchase services for the rest of the fiscal year. So they do have routine things and regular things,
Okay.
You need oil, you need parts to change the oil, you need,
But just listen to what we're saying. If Ben raises a good point,
yep,
but the answer would be they would wipe out their account. So now you come to the Finance Committee and the Reserve Fund to wipe its reserve fund out. Meanwhile, you got $106,000 in a capital depreciation fund, which is set up exactly for this type of ask, which it would take 10% of it. It wouldn't wipe it out at all. The process that has been followed was the right process. And we're circumventing that and reverting and circling back because we didn't like that process. That shouldn't be how a reserve fund request comes before the Finance Committee. I'm sorry.
So usually, Ben, when departments have things that they're looking at as a potential reserve fund and something earlier in the year, right? Things break all the time. Large piece could break from the fire department, which has happened. Large piece over here, what have you. Most of the time, what we try to do is we just at least notify the FinCom that something came up that was unexpected, and then we proceed as normal. Because sometimes, something else happens and we're able to cover that cost within our normal budget, no problem. And sometimes it absorbs more of the rest of the budget as a result of that, and then we can't pay for our ordinary expenses, and then at that point, we go to the reserve fund. So I'm putting this on, 2 reasons. Number one, it was my recommendation. Number two, it was the vote of the select board to put the first as a reserve fund transfer before the FinCom. So we are here this evening on that first item.
And do we understand, and I doubt he provided it, which one's more important to him? Which one has the more immediate need?
So I don't have him here, and I don't necessarily feel comfortable speaking to that piece on that. I know the second part, just to get the vehicle operational is a big thing, and he has a little blurb on that I can read, but I don't know if, Mark, you want me to read that, or if you want me to wait, because you said you wanted to vote on one before talking about the state.
Well, I'll totally defer to the committee. You want to take a look at the other one?
Well, I would like to, in order to make a decision on this one, I'd like to hear the importance of the
Yeah.
other one.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Is that okay?
Yep, go
All
right
right, so
ahead.
he wrote parts to repair the cat loader. Back in February, while working the machine, it started giving the operator issues and was not performing as it should. The machine was taken out of service until the mechanic could troubleshoot the problem. It was determined that the front end of the machine needs to be rebuilt in order to put the machine back in service. So attaches the listing of parts to make said repairs with a total sum of just over $14,000. So in order to repair that piece, there's nothing, they can really just buy all in one. You can send it out for repairs. It's going to be a lot more costly than if the mechanic has the pieces he needs to rebuild and put it back together.
So let me speak to that one. That has to do with essentially a loader. And I don't mean to do this, Jeff, but both Jeff and Heather have both sent me Chapter 90 document that around 11 o'clock last night, I sent to all of you, which is 101 pages, and I saved you from yourself and said, just look at 2 pages. And 2 pages basically speak to the point of loaders, of which this is a loader. And it indicates that expenditures for loaders would be an acceptable expenditure. So in the minutes that we just approved, there was a request, a question asked, Mark Love asked if any of the above items could be funded through Chapter 90 funds. And the DPW director said, I don't know, I'll get back to you. My point here is, let's ask the same question as to whether or not this can be funded through Chapter 90 funds. Hopefully, he can have an answer by next week, because we only saw these reserve fund transfers yesterday. We meet February 2nd with the Select Board. Maybe we'll have an answer. We can vote on that one then. So, getting ahead of myself, but my recommendation would be to pause on taking a vote on the second one until we have an answer.
Mark, can we just change that date to April 2nd? We already lived February 2nd. I don't want to do it again.
What did I say?
February 2nd.
Second.
Well,
It was a great
February, March, April. Yeah.
It was like on
April
Monday when you
2nd.
kept moving this meeting to last night.
Yeah, April 2nd. So,
Okay.
So I don't know if that answered any of your question, Ben, at
Yep,
all?
Yep, it did, thank you. And Jeff, it is a 14-ton, right? And,
What's that?
It is 14-ton, not a 12-ton,
Okay.
the lift.
Okay, yeah.
It's
It's
So
just if I
now
could-
we have two transfer reserve fund requests in front of us. I would entertain a motion to make on either one in the order that you like, or hit the pause button and postpone it until April 2nd, whatever the committee wishes to do.
I would, I think the chapter, just a quick, if I may, quick point of question. How much money do we currently have in Chapter 90 funds?
So,
112?
so,
112.
well, no. So I don't have the current balance of the unexpended amount that were allotted from the state for FY '25. FY '26 currently, if we get all of it, it's the highest number we've had in the longest time, and it's about 380 is what the
Right.
projection is.
Right.
So it depends each year. It's kind of like they put a tab out at the state, and it rolls over year to year, and we can charge to it. But I did just hear back, it looks like Travis believes that the more urgent of the two is the lift.
Yeah. So I think we got a couple, somebody should entertain a motion one at a time, or pass on. So I move that we approve the lift out of reserve fund.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
a second.
Motion's been made and a second. Any discussion?
Already done.
All in favor, roll call. Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
I'm a no, just because I think there's a better way to do it.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
No.
Mark is a no. Tim?
No.
Defeated.
Fails 4-2. Is there a motion to be made regarding the cat loader? Or is the recommendation to wait until next week?
What, I guess, what is the difference of disapproving or waiting till next week?
We would have a firm yes or no whether we should take out a check.
Chapter 90 funds.
Right, so, but I guess is there, if we say, let's close the issue tonight, if we decide to vote to disapprove, it was found that we can't take it out of Chapter 90 funds, could they resubmit?
You can revisit these at any time, Ben. There's no
not putting more
prohibition
work
like
for
in
somebody.
planning world that,
Okay.
once you vote no, that's it, it's no forever. You can, if the committee wanted to, they could take these back up next week and say, we've
Okay.
reconsidered, or we'd like to look at this again.
And there's no addition, as Tony mentioned, we're not going to create more work for a different paper file, it has to be a different file number because this one was, okay.
We can literally just keep the file with the minutes and revisit next week.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, personally, that I think can wait a week. I mean, it certainly can wait a week if we voted down a lift, which is a safety item. So this can wait a week. But I think we should have a definite answer. I think it's clear in the Chapter 90 document myself. I don't think it's that complicated, really. But I'm okay with waiting a week, but we got to come up, it's either yes or no. Somebody wants to make a phone
I'll make
call.
a motion to hold the second reserve fund transfer for the cat loader until we have a yes or a no on the Chapter
Second.
90 availability.
Perfect. Motion's been made. Second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? None. All in favor, Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
Yes.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Yes.
Mark is aye. Tim?
Yes.
Vote passes unanimously to 8. Thank you all. So now we have the remainder of the cost centers and department budgets that we need to approve, and I sent you a document today. I hope everybody got it. It's it looks like it lists 24 cost centers. They keep saying cost centers because some are departments and some are actually cost centers. there was some X's and O's, and I promised you I'd tell you what they meant when you got here, and that was an enticing tease to get you here. I took the liberty of clustering them the way that I had. It really doesn't mean much, but you'll see that, and on the screen, you can see as far down as number 18, but it goes as deep as number 24. To the right-hand side, there are X's with amounts. And that's where it's going to take some really deft juggling here, because what that is saying is that that particular department has submitted a budget, but has also submitted a secondary budget, asking for the amounts adjacent to the X, that they, for whatever reason, and I don't mean that to be positive or negative, but for whatever their reasons might be, they couldn't live within the 2.5 Biden budget guidance letter that we submitted to them. And they have narratives, and there's other material, all of which we've seen and received. It's going to be difficult and really need our focused attention to make sure that we're looking at two of these at the same time, essentially voting on the in compliance and the out of compliance. You'll also see that the total of all of those is $702,000. I'm not going to, or do you think, Heather, you could put the other one up just for, the reason I want it up there is part of this is the Ben Mitchell Memorial clauses up here. Because you made a good point last week, and I took it to heart. And then we can go back to the other one. This right here is our, I don't mean to be dismissive in stating it, but this is our running scorecard of where our deficit is. And when the budget guidance letter went out and the budgets came back, there was a deficit of $472,380, which included some that were beyond 2.5% increase, like employee benefits and town insurance and retirement, that to some extent, I would say, none of us have any control over. So there was no changing those. So those, coupled with the many departments that came in, and there were lots of them to their credit, by the way, that came in compliance at 2.5%. Our budget deficit right out of the gate was $472,380. The others that had asked for, some asked and some didn't, and the Wachusett Regional School District didn't ask, they just submitted something. There were additional budget requests to the tune of $702,071. Ben raised a good point. What is that made up of? And we've broken this down. $289,640 of it is town-related. $431 is Wachusett Regional related. I took the liberty of breaking the town down a little bit to the three main players, DPW, police, and fire, and there are 9 other departments, which we'll see later on, that came in, some at $15, some at $400, some at $4,000, total of which was $35,000. So our starting point of our deficit was $1,174,000. We have since, if you can scroll down a little bit, Heather, we have since talked a little bit about some things, not the least of which is new growth, which had been pegged in for $80,000 for the next 5 years, has been walked back to be anticipated or forecast at only $65,000, which reduces that revenue stream by 15. Magically, the motor vehicle excises went up by 15. I'm not going to ask why or how, but one canceled out the other. I'm going to hold the 20,000 for a thought for just a minute, because the gray-areaed ones have some meaning. Wachusett Regional made a modest change in their particular assessment. I wish it had a couple more zeros, but it doesn't. It's $640. Worcester County Retirement, fortunately, was originally budget higher than that came in at. Same with employee benefits. The Charter Review Committee has submitted a budget request that was not at the top of the page, but they've requested $2,000 for all the good work that they're going to do over the next year, maybe two. Tony, don't mean to put you on the spot, but Economic Development Committee had some money, then it didn't, and then it did, and then it didn't, and the question is, can we put that back on the table for at least some discussion? IT maps, or maps for IT, that is, requested another 10,000, and I didn't want to give up on the tree warden, because he had budgeted 4,000, and I thought he needed 154,000. And I think upon some reconsideration, he's asked that it go up to 10, which is kind of where it's been over the last couple of years. It's been at 6, it's been at 8, it's been at, one year it was at 25, and this is adding another 10, which means that our budget deficit as we begin our work tonight is $1,149,018 or $1,129,018 because of the Delta jump ball of the $20,000 up above. And I'll get on with that because I think we can dispense with it. What that is was, and actually in the presentation to the Capital Improvement Planning Committee and trying to get police cruisers, the chief made mention of, and if you look carefully at your own local receipts, information that Heather's good about, and Larissa as well, is sending out all the time, there are police fines, there are police permits, there are licenses, there are fees, to the tune of about $20,000 per year. And the thought was, why don't we take that out of the general fund and put it in for lack of a better word, a police local receipts fund, which after 3 years, you'd have $60,000 and we'd have the purchase ability for a cruiser. Seemed like a good idea. It was supported by an article that I read in the Landmark that the Holden Police Department does this, and they tapped into their police cruisers this year to the tune of $200,000, and I thought, wouldn't it be nice if we had 60?
It's a lot of tickets, Mark.
And now they've been.
Slow down.
Now I've been told they
Slow
can't
down.
do that. So it was a good thought, but I guess what I would say is I don't want to fight the fight, because if we've been told we can't do it, we can't do it, but I would certainly want to exhaust why we can't do it, because it makes all the most perfect sense in the world to do it. So I need somebody, not this evening, but somebody more legally, counting-wise, Mass General Law, Division of Local Services-wise, to tell me why we can't do it. But I'm willing to withdraw it from this evening, which means our deficit is not the $1,149,000, it's the $1,129,000. So now you have all the backdrop to start tonight's work.
Yeah, and I just want to make a comment to get it on the record to make sure everyone's aware, and they might, but overall, our estimated revenue year over year is down 200,000.
Yes.
So we've already asked everyone to say limit it to 2.5% up. We ended up with a budget, but just so everyone that's listening or might listen, we are now, from last year to this year, we're getting $200,000 yet less in revenue.
Right. And I don't want to pick on one, but to your point, our growth of revenue for a number of years was 150,000. Now it's 65. I mean, that's 90,000 right there. For all kinds of reasons, nobody's fault. That's not the point I'm trying to make. I'm trying to echo what you're saying, Ben, that our revenue's going in the wrong direction too.
Right, and just so people are aware, that includes the 2.5% levy.
Right.
So with everything that the town has capable to kind of do within its limits, we're already $200,000 less in revenue, roughly, 180,000. So, okay.
So now with that 1,129,018 in front of us, can we go back to the other slide? And I'll take them in any order that the committee wishes. However, it might make some sense to take them in the order that they appear.
Yeah, some of these smaller items, I think, could,
What's that?
yeah, chip off the top there, the
Right.
smaller. It's just a point of clarification on the way this is laid out. The X, is this the increase to the right of the X?
I think,
Not the increase.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's, yeah, so this
Okay.
this is all the out of guidance. I did include, Tony's EDC number on here, and I also did include the tree warden 10,000, just so it's all in one spot.
Okay.
So we don't lose track of it. But yeah, I think the difference between the X and a number versus having no number, as Mark explained earlier, is if it has no number, then it's just within the confines of the guidance and the
Yes.
budget. And the X means extra special,
That's-
and there's an additional request.
Yep, got it. Thank you. Clarification on that.
So, can we go to Cost Center Department 1123, which is the town administrator?
If you would add that 820 to this.
This is why we invited you tonight.
Oh, just for that? Okay. So the first one here we have is just for my department. It's just a request to restore training opportunities. So the training number had been higher in the past years. We reduced it last year as a result. So I haven't had as many opportunities to go to essential trainings, including the Mass Municipal Human Resource Annual Training in the fall, which is always a big one. That's on, as you can imagine, human resources. It's a couple-day conference, but something, if possible, I'd like to add back in, as well as part of the Mass Municipal Annual Conference. I had to reduce other trainings and so forth to be able to cover that this year. So it's just a request to essentially put the funding back in so that there's sufficient funds for that position for training.
So, don't want to take away from your presentation, but the budget was in guidance, except for $820, which was for training.
Move to approve.
So, motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Discussion, do we want to put up? The whole, I mean, we're looking at the 820, do we want to approve the full number and not just the 820? Right, so we're going to have to approve the
Right. the budget
Yeah,
line
maybe
item.
we should put the, like last.
you know the sheet you guys were working on last week where you were?
Yep, you just tell me which sheet you want up at
The
what
one that
time.
you were, the one that we were.
Yes, I can
we
put
were
that up.
Writing the number in the column after we approved last week.
I will pull that up
You
right
got it.
now.
catch, Jeremy.
It's this one.
Yes.
Just doesn't
Yes,
have the
yes, yes,
delta.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, just give me 1 second. So when everyone, oh, I don't think you have hard copies of that one, okay.
No, we don't have the only thing that's missing is the delta.
Okay. Jeremy, you okay if I show the slightly more
Perfect, yeah,
detailed
sure.
sheet so I can
Yep.
put it in the right column and
Got
then
it.
you have a total? I just have to unlock my cell so I can edit it. Oh, it might be. Okay.
A lot of paper here, Tony.
That's on this.
Reading class phase.
Oh,
That's on this.
I gotta get these upgraded. I'm in rough shape.
So the motion would be made to approve 1123 for the town administrator at $125,112.
Say that number again?
It'd be the 125,9.
125,112?
Yes, okay.
That match that?
Yep. No, that one's different than the 112.
The 820 added to it.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Because you wanted everything in the.
Yes.
You guys are okay with the guidance? I'll quickly pencil it in.
So it would be the 125,112 plus the 820.
Right.
Yes.
Got it.
So it'd be 125,932.
Yeah.
Yes,
That's the slide I need to see, that I don't see.
it's right there.
I don't have my glasses.
Can we blow it up a little bit, Heather? I do
just
have
trust
my
us.
glasses, and I still need it blown up.
Okay.
So
I've got it here,
I
too.
think it's
It's easy to-
important for the motion to include the number so Jeff can
Yeah,
pick it
right.
up.
Yeah. So friendly amendment.
So there's been a motion to approve.
Yeah, do you want me to read?
Bottom right, blow it up.
The
Oh, no,
town
that ain't it.
administrator's budget.
Yeah.
That's the wrong button.
Whoa, that's pretty
That,
good.
that'll work.
Well, that was
good
probably
there.
good, but that's the wrong
With
button.
the override request. I mean, the outer guidance.
Right.
By
Let's
my
not
thumb.
carried away yet, Mark. All right, that's the updated number?
Yeah.
Yes, right here, 125,932.
Yep. So move to approve the town administrator line item 1123 in the amount of $125,932.
Second.
Any discussion? None. All in favor? Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
I,
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark's aye. Tim?
Aye.
Passes.
Thank you. This is the same thing, right?
yeah, that's the one we have here, I think.
It's your sheet.
I
It's your sheet.
Okay,
1129 is
all right.
the, that's coordinated.
Department 1129, semi-newly named, the Permitting and Economic Development Coordinator.
Yes, so this year, in order to get that budget to have enough, remember, we had to add some money in for reserve fund. We also added some money from the fire department's at midline to be able to fully fund this as a full-time 40-hour-a-week position. When we do our budget, we do not do budgets as adjusted, so we never show, money we put in to essentially make something whole. So we're just basing it off of what we had budgeted and funded at town meeting, which is not sufficient to cover those 40 hours. So what you see here is when we actually did the budget, in order to get it to where it needed to be, it would have required, or would require, reducing the hours from that position from 40 to 35. So one of the three additional requests here is for $6,465 to bring it back up to the 40 hours from, right now, in this budget, it only shows 35 hours budgeted. It adds back in the continuing education training as well as advertisement for various things, including, when we have to go out and do advertisement for public hearings, such as the planning board, and we know we have MBTA that's going to be coming up in the fall that will have that in there. And right now, we wiped the purchase services out completely. We tried to put all of it into the coordinator wages just to get it to 35 hours. And then the last piece here is the continuing cost for office supplies. We brought it down to 50 again, trying to put all of the funds into the person and reducing the other ones to support it.
So is there a motion to approve the Permitting and Economic Development Coordinator budget, including the out-of-guidance amount of $7,313, which would be a total of
47, 930, 922.
922?
That's what I have too.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I guess I'd just like to, so this is an hour a week, an hour a day, is we're talking about roughly, right?
And we just went through a lot of work to move this position, which has traditionally been at 27 hours, up to 40 hours. The person now serves, assists with the fire department as well, and also serves to assist the economic development position. Economic development Committee, sorry. I'm changing your title of what you do, Tony, sorry.
I'm just trying to understand, so that's a great improvement, right? We are going from, what, 25 to 35? I'm just trying to understand, what does an hour a day Delta do?
So the position, just having someone in the full-time position has already allowed them to expand. I'll give you an example. We have a new business that's coming to town, or interested in coming to town. So this individual now has the ability to coordinate with all the inspectors and the individual person who's interested in, do the research on what they need for permits, set up a meeting for, let's say, a day in the future that's this week, to meet with all of those people on site and then back in the office here to talk about all those pieces and put a plan together for that individual to encourage them to continue working towards bringing their business to Paxton. That is something we've never been able to do before. This person is very busy with the public hearing coming up. We get constant septic requests at this time of the year for the Board of Health, and they're expanding on helping with people with burning permits, as well as coordinating and being the key in-between person for the building department as well as the fire department. And since we've been able to have someone at the full-time rate, they're now also able to communicate on a daily basis with the building commissioner to make sure that he always knows where he needs to be when he needs to be there, and making sure we follow up to get all the information in for the inspections when they do it. So it seems like it's crazy at only an hour difference, but it's huge, the amount of work this individual can do with that time.
Oh, go ahead.
No, yeah.
No, go ahead.
You mentioned the MBTA zoning. So part of this role will be to do information sharing on that, or just?
So even think just accessory dwelling units that are now the hot new topic, right?
Yeah.
So this individual had to get apprised of what was going on the state level, tune into what our revised bylaws were, work with the building inspector and anyone else who has a important role in what happens moving forward. And a lot of times, it's a lot of communication back and forth with the health inspector to talk about septics and whether or not they have the capacity. So it's not gonna be much different with the MBTA. Difference with the MBTA is I don't think it's something that's gonna necessarily come to fruition anytime soon. I think it's more so people are gonna have lots of questions and want lots of information moving
Oh,
forward.
they will.
This time, just.
I do.
Just with publishing the stuff for the zoning bylaws that we're looking at, and the planning board has a public hearing on the 7th, this individual was able to, print out all the materials, get them into binders, get them out to places. This is stuff in the past my role has had to do, right? If you look back a year ago, Cheryl was absolutely fantastic, but she only worked 27 hours a week. She didn't have an extra 15, 16 hours to help me with stuff for zoning to be able to get all their materials out where it needed to be. So the support role it has, and it seems like an hour a day is crazy, but if you think about this is one of the busiest people with the number of phone calls and emails, and they also, if you go in to apply for a permit online, it goes to her.
Got it.
Ben, I don't think this is where you're taking it, but I would say this is not a position that I would want the town to try to save $1,000 on. I think we need to be running on all cylinders here for any type of business-friendly economic development, permitting, building, whatever we can do to accommodate that, and if this helps us along that way, I'm all for it.
Yeah, my fundamental concern is the goal of this person was economic development, and feels like they're filling a lot of other roles. So, if when this first came up and we started talking about it, it was, it takes too long to get a inspector to keep on top of this, to keep on top of that. I'm, like you said, it's $7,000 or $1.1 million, $1.2 million over. It's not gonna make or break anything. I just wanna make sure that this person doesn't become more of a paper pusher, that economic development is what we need. And so dealing with that is really important. The more tasks that get put on this person, the less tasks that something else happens. So as you said, all this stuff was getting done before this person out. Unfortunately, some of it fell to you, some of it fell to other people. But the goal of this role was to try to get more businesses in, not to run more permits and things like that. So that's kind of was just a little bit of the angst is, right, as you explained it, I don't know how to pull that apart.
But I think that this position originally was the town services coordinator as well, right? So that, it kind of more, it was a role that had an established base and kind of added the economic development, took some of the permitting, now does the permitting for, fire and that stuff. So.
Yeah. So maybe the naming convention's not
Right.
comprehensive.
So I remember this was Cheryl's old position with added
Yeah.
things.
And I think Tony can talk to the economic development piece of it. It allows for that individual to go to economic development committee meetings, which is super helpful because they're able to assist EDC with where they're going and help with tasks such as, putting together assisting Tony and whoever else with putting together, I'm trying to think of what it's called, Tony, that's coming up in 2 months.
Networking event?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Networking event for vendors, getting the word out and getting those pieces. It also, the fact that we now have someone who has time to be able to arrange and pull together all of the inspectors and say, okay, hey, Bob the barber wants to put his project or his shop over here. How do we do it? How do we make this happen for him? What are the questions? What are the pros? What are the cons? What are the inspections we need? That's what she's been spending a good portion of her time on. And I think to that nature of her job, that is exactly what we were looking to have someone do. We knew we weren't going to be able to pull up a shop every 2 feet because we're not zoned for it. But being able to utilize all of the current space we have available as business to help businesses get in and then to further foster the relationships and work to improve and expand the businesses, it's huge.
Yeah, right now there's 2 businesses that she's been really instrumental helping with. Part of that is our process is messy. So I don't picture her having to put the amount of time she's putting in now to these 2 businesses, all the time. One, because we don't have 100 other commercial spaces sitting out there. But part of it's the process improvement and, making it a better process. So I don't know what percentage of her time she's spending on economic development versus other stuff, but she's definitely been instrumental, really valuable on the economic development side. She's probably been a big reason why these 2 businesses have stuck with the messy processes. She's been able to really, help consolidate it. So I don't want to spend too much time on that. I think your questions are really good, to be honest. I think the title might be a little bit misleading, to be honest, because replacing Cheryl, we always knew was going to be borderline impossible. So anybody who was going to take her role was probably going to be 40% less efficient because she wasn't human. So, yeah.
Okay, go for it.
No, those are good questions.
Any further discussion? Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Jeff?
Oh, I'm sorry. Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy? Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Town accountant? Account 1135.
Yes, so I already typed in the numbers while we were waiting in case anyone wants to see the final total here. So there's 2 requests for this, again, to keep it in guidance, we had to pull some pieces out. This is a 20-hour-a-week position. Larissa has been there for quite some time. She is in the process of working towards her certification for her position as an accountant or a certified Massachusetts municipal accountant. Last year, she passed the legal portion of the exam, which is not that easy to do. And this past year, she has been instrumental with us both onboarding our new treasurer collector and spending extra time and working hard to help get her up to speed and even help her with her tasks, as well as lots and lots of hours helping me just with this beautiful looking budget book that has many pieces and constantly checking my numbers. So as a result for that, I'd like to increase her pay from, she was currently a step E4 to an E5. And the balance of that, that does not fit within the budget would be $836 in the salary line. And again, to stay within budget, I had to take $15 out of the supply line to balance. So this brings the total to $35,068 if you add those 2 pieces in.
Move to approve.
Got it. Is there a motion to approve the town accountant's budget at $35,068?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, Jeff,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
Jeremy.
Aye.
Mark's aye. Tim?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. The assessor, budget 1141,
So I don't have
in
anything.
guidance.
Yep, I don't have anything to add on this. They did just hire someone. His name is Robert. He seems wonderful. He will start on Monday. I don't know if they're going to have to move some of these numbers around within, but if they need to do that, we always have the internal transfer process that will allow them a little bit of flexibility. So let's say that, maybe he is not making as much as the current assessor would make, but he needs additional funding because he needs more training since he's brand new. So they would move the money from the salary line to the purchase services. So this should be enough, as far as I know, I haven't heard otherwise, for them to be able to accomplish what they need to accomplish in FY '26. They might need to just move things as needed, like I said, from probably comp to purchase services to be able to provide more training to a newer person.
Does he need more training?
Well, someone coming in who doesn't have any training as an assessor, I would say, as much training as we can get the person. So, but yes, he's going to need training towards the certifications, yes. So, but I think, I haven't heard otherwise. I believe this budget as a whole at the 84,989 should be able to get them substantially where they need to be. And if they need to adjust money coming from one line versus the other, I think we can assist them with that.
So the hope is the salary that's there will be paid less, but there was certification with the person who's leaving. There may be need for certification, and the hope is it balances out. So, is there a motion to approve assessors at 989? Is that the number
So
everybody's
moved.
got?
Second.
Any discussion? None? All in favor, Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark's aye. Tim?
Aye.
Thank you. Passes unanimously. Treasurer Collector, budget 1145. In guidance as is, total of 99,737.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? None. All in favor? Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark's aye. Tim?
Aye.
6-0, it passes.
Mark, real quick, sorry, one sec. Who made the motion? I didn't catch it.
I did.
Okay, you seconded it?
Yep. Thank you.
Municipal Information Services, IT, account 1155.
Okay, so IT here, we have two pieces. So the first is equipment, and then the second is a new software. So I want to talk about the equipment first. So again, we pulled this out because it does not fit within the 2.5 guidance of the budget. So for a number of years, we haven't really had a good replacement plan for devices. Sometimes we throw in a couple, sometimes we don't. As we know, technology only lasts so many years, and then you need to start replacing things, or you start getting into end of life on items and run into security problems and everything else. So our IT company, Suzer IT, has done a complete survey of all of the equipment that we have, and once they've done so, they made a recommendation that we replace a number of computers each year. They had recommended about 10 of our computers. We have about, give or take, 35 pieces, so that would be replacing everything, give or take, every 4 years. And their recommendation was to replace 10 pieces of equipment for next fiscal year. Within our budget, we can only fit 2 computers or 2 systems out of that. So this is a request to do an additional 8 computers, which come to $12,000 is the estimate that would need to be added to the budget.
So Heather, just a little bit
Yeah.
of math. I thought you said 35 computers, then 10, then 12, but the out of guidance is requesting 8 computers. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we have about 35 pieces of equipment currently. Their recommendation was that we replace about 10 a year. We were able to squeeze in about 2 within guidance, so this would do another
Okay,
8.
all
So
right.
this would get us to 10 per year.
Not to be picky on here, but
Sure.
any idea how old some of these PCs are? Are they 4 years old, or are they?
So, the Lenovo, so we got the Lenovo, I think, within the first year I was here, so about 2022. So a good portion of the laptops at Town Hall, which is the sole means, right? We don't have laptops
Right.
and
Plug it into a docking station. Yep,
CPUs anymore. We just have the laptops,
so a few years old.
yeah. And you're figuring about 4 years before you start
Oh, it's true.
running into issues,
Oh, yeah, yeah,
so.
yep.
But the laptop switch was a great idea because not only do you not have to deal with the towers anymore, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But it's also universal. You take it with you. It has all of your stuff. It interacts well with OneDrive and everyone's system. But one person, I think it's the assistant town clerk on the first floor of Town Hall, you could pick up your computer and go plug into someone else's workstation. No problem.
Yep.
Interchangeable. So it's really versatile and lovely.
So if I try new math here, 35 computers, we're going to replace 10. That's 3.5 years. I've never seen an IT consultant that's not going to say after 3.5 years that you got to replace that computer. So this is going to be an ongoing thing.
I think this is going to be every year. The idea is to put money in the budget to be able to replace stuff.
Right.
Yep.
So-
And if
so-
you replace about 10 a year, it'll take you to your point, Mark, about 3.5 years. Maybe that last year you either get a little bit of a break or the price has gone up so astronomically from the year before that it's the same year number as the year before at half the computers.
This show's heavy now because it's year 1, right? We
Right.
replace that.
Right.
How many? did you
So we
say there are?
begin, go ahead, Tom.
We have
35.
about, they figure we have about 35
35,
devices.
okay, sorry.
So that's essentially town-wide. That's not just looking at Town Hall.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that includes like the police cruiser computers. That's just the main ones that people are using.
So
throughout the
for the
buildings.
lack of a better word, we're not making a one-time purchase. We're this year, it appears, building it in for this to be a recurring budget item every year going forward.
Yes. I would say that.
Which, you know, in the grand scheme of any operating business, it's not out of,
Oh, no, you definitely,
Yeah.
I'm not speaking
Yeah.
against it.
No, I
I'm
know,
just
I know.
doing, for all means, I would think that they need to have
Yeah.
computers, and security is a much bigger issue than it ever was, and we need to give them the tools they need, so.
Only when people send spam is it a problem. Phishing
well, either
emails.
that or but you're right, Mark, it is gonna be an ongoing.
Right.
Oops, sorry about that, ongoing.
You also have 10 for near math and quotient.
Yes, so I can explain that. So that is a very new request. This is something that was brought to our attention by the assessor's office. Kateri and I started talking about it, I want to say it was at least 6 months ago. So a number of other assessors' departments in the state of Massachusetts have started using this software. It's kind of like Google Maps on steroids, right? So Nearmap is a software as a service, so it's subscription-based. You have to pay an annual subscription to it. They do it based on the size of the population of your town. Once you have the subscription, it's actually, whoever administers it can open it up to as many people in the town as they like. So every employee could have an email access to it and be able to get it on their computer at any point wherever they are. It allows you to bring up particular properties, so any properties in town. It also allows you to see, they do flyovers for all of the properties at least once a year. In some parts of town, it might be twice a year. It allows you to see the changes in a property from the year before. So on an assessor's side of things, right? Let's say we can't get access to a property because we're not admitted to the property. We can check out the flyover from the year before, even 2 years before and this year, and be like, oh, look, there's a new shed. Oh, look, there's a new garage or something else new. And we have the ability to utilize that information to be able to actually adjust, mark, and grow our new growth. A lot of towns have found that within a very short period of time of having the software, they're actually able to make back in new growth the amount of the cost of the software. So the cost of the software itself is around, give or take, $9,000. It's on that line. It also has the ability, you can measure. They say they're accurate within 6 inches. So you can actually take measurements, like let's say someone pops a pool. Jeremy didn't tell us, he just threw a pool there. We noticed it last year. We go in, we do the measurements of his pool, and we can add that to the assessor's card, and the state honors that as collecting the data. It also gives us the ability, their newest stuff from last year to this year, we can actually see grade differences, right? So if we're concerned someone's moving soil in, moving soil out, as an enforcement piece, we can now see that. Mike, do you want to just mention 1 or 2 things, benefit to the fire department, police department on it? I'll throw you a mic. All right.
I was going to get up to the podium, but I didn't realize I was selling this tonight, so. This mapping software is, generally, it's just a high-tech GIS. That's a little better than the GIS we use now currently, and it's more up to date. So if anybody's been following us along, you know we've had a busy few weekends, the last few weekends with brush fires. This would help us map overall area, help us to see properties, help us in the event of lost or missing hikers, which we seem to be doing a lot more of lately too. So it has exponential benefits on the public safety side, providing, you know, we're granted that access. But yeah, it's good for us, and you know, I don't want to break the budget over it either, so I'll just leave it at that.
And this 10 will be, that's just an annual fee.
Yeah, it's an annual fee. The rest of the fee, because like I said, it's like 8 or 9 for that. There's another software, it's an add-on, and only works with this. Like you can't, they won't sell it to you to put on Google Maps or anything else. It's called Pushpin. And what it actually does is it compares a prior year, like let's say we want to take Maple Street. You tell it you want Maple Street. It will look at last year's mapping versus this year's mapping and create a CSV file with the differences. So you can easily go in as the assessor's office and target, okay, here's where the major changes are in the past year. Let's go pull those properties and see what's going on differently on the property than what we had the year before. So again, it's one of those things, we've talked to a couple different towns who have it. They all swear by it. And they say, you know, this is something that if you're looking for opportunities to capture new growth that we might be missing or might have missed over the past couple of years, this is a great one that at least in that first year, you're getting back the money you have. I talked to the building commissioner about it. He got super excited because it's just easier, right? When they want to look at a property, when you're looking at, okay, well, I'm potentially going to put a shed here, or, you know, I need to know where the plot lines are, whatever it may be. They can see all those pieces on the thing. And again, they sell it as it's accurate up to 6 inches.
All good. Is there a motion? Was that the discussion? I don't think we had a motion.
No motion on the table.
Is the number 115,699?
Hold on, I'm adding it in. 125,699 is what I have. Yep, I'll share.
One more time, 125?
125,699.
Is there a motion to
I'll make a
approve?
motion to approve the IT.
Is there a
Line.
second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
Thank you. Town clerk?
So the town clerk has been with us for a number of years. She works very hard, and she is budgeted at 32 hours a week as a salaried employee. I don't know if she can tell me what week she actually only worked 32 hours a week. I would like to, over the course of the next several years, start actually paying her for the number of hours she works. I'd like to do that starting in the increment of 1 hour. So this budget here, this is out of guidance because it does not fit within. This would be what we need to get her from the 32 hours a week to 33 hours a week for the fiscal year, and that would come to the tune of $1,675 additional.
So what is the number with,
I'm adding it in now. 675. 72,565.
72,565 is what I have. Is there a motion to approve?
Yep. Motion to approve budget line 1161, town clerk, $72,565.
Or a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Jeff?
Roll aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
Thank you. Elections registrar, related in large part to the town clerk.
So this number is over half, more than 50% less than the current year. We don't have presidential elections next year. It's a pretty, knock on wood, it hopes to be a pretty boring year.
I don't know, that selectmen's race looks a little hot.
Yeah, but that's next fiscal year.
I just call it as I
That
see
went
it.
from 24,320 to
Yes.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve line
Second.
1162 for $10,856.
Is there a friendly amendment not to have any state elections in the process? Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
Thank you. Passes. Building Department, count 1241.
All right, so this right here, so right now, in order to continue paying the building commissioner, he has, when we originally offered him the position in the fall of 2022, there were 3 possible exams he needed to take in order to get his full certification as a building commissioner. These are very challenging tests. A lot of people fail them a number of times. Sometimes they take quite some time for people to get. And we generally put a step associated with each one of them. This would wrap us up to get him to the point where he is completed all of those pieces. The request here is to add 2 hours to his piece. Let me just pull up specifically, make sure I have the details right, because I went back on this one a couple times. So last year, we reduced the number of hours he worked. If you remember, for the longest time, up until 2022, the person was salaried and they worked 20 hours a week. When we hired for 19 hours a week. So there's 2 pieces here, so I broke it down. So the first was to continue to fund at 13 hours a week. So remember, we originally hired at 19. Last year, because of the cuts, we dropped it down to 13 hours. So continue to fund at 13 hours a week. Half-hour increase there, we have $1,072, and work to begin to increase hours from 13 back up, in this case, up to the 15 hours per week, puts us at an additional $4,288. So down below in the explanation, I had to keep the budget requested within 2.5%, accommodate increase in pay to reflect the final building commissioner certification. Half an hour a week had to be removed from request, reducing 13 hours down a week, oh, I see, decrease, down to 12.5. One request is to restore that number back to the 13 hours, and the second request is to start increasing it back up towards the 19 by 2 hours this fiscal year, putting us at 15 hours a week.
Heather, what do you have for a number, including the out-of-guidance request?
I don't have one yet, Mark, give me a sec.
46,659.
Building department, where are you? 5360. I have 46,659.
Perfect. Got it. Is there a motion to approve at 46,659?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
Thank you. Cemetery could have been clustered with DPW, but opted not to do so. Count 1491.
So I have,
It's in guidance, 9,229.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
Thank you. Passes. Board of Health, 1510. In guidance.
18784.
Correct. 19,784. Up 2.4% from a year ago.
Move to approve. Move to
Motion,
approve.
motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? None? All in favor? Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
Thank you. Passes. Council on Aging, 1541. Give me a minute. I am going to recuse myself from voting, recuse myself from any discussion, but with your permission, I'll function administratively to get the vote taken.
Sounds like a plan.
That's within guidance.
It's within guidance. At 63,455.
Move
Make-
to, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion to approve and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark abstains. Tim?
Aye.
Thank you all. Library, 1610.
Believe that's within budget, right?
It is in guidance at 2.50.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve at 208,501.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
Perfect. Now, three tough ones. The Economic Development Committee does not have a budgeted number.
It was a late ad.
A late ad, okay. How late is late ad?
6:56 time. I just saw his number.
Nobody
Better late
tells,
than never.
nobody tells me anything. Is there a motion to approve that we're going to spend $700 to increase our revenue by $100,000? That's a good return on investment.
Is that a guarantee?
I'm going to abstain from voting and answering that question.
I'll make a motion to approve 1182 Economic Development Committee for $700 budget for FY '26.
So move. Is second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? Hearing none.
Aye.
Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
I'll abstain.
Stain? Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
Good work. Charter Review, which you see on your handout, does not have an account number, but it does have a budget request submitted to us. Heather, you want to kind of run with that one for us?
I can sure try, Mark. Let me just. All right, so they are looking for a total of $2,000. They have it broken down in the following: $1,200 for postage, media coverage ads $300, and supplies $500. They have here in their description, the postage for mailings to the community at large for resident input and transparency, 300 media coverage and ads, Worcester Telegram and Gazette, Landmark and Paxton News, and 500 for supplies, posters and other communication vehicles, newsletters, Paxton Day handouts, coffee, resident meetings, etc.
So could I add in terms of the submission of this, I'm going to misspeak, but I think I'll have it mostly right. An email was sent to the Select Board Chair, the Finance Committee Chair, and the Town Administrator for $2,000. I did my typical, I'm only one member, don't want to speak on behalf of the committee, but thank you for your submission, and hopefully it will be looked upon favorably. And went on record as saying that I thought it should be its own department for its existence, whether it be 1 year, 2 years, or if you followed anything that they're doing, they're digging in. And that's not a criticism or even an observation, that's a compliment. So I think they're going to be around for a while. Don't want to speak on behalf of the Select Board Chairman, but I think she went on record as saying she didn't care about where it was accounted for. I think Heather was of the mind that it should go in the Select Board Department under purchased services. I personally support the 2,000. I don't support putting in another department on a line item. I think it should be its own standalone department.
Yeah, I move to approve 1691, $2,000 for charter review.
In its own department.
That's Historical Commission.
Did I-
We don't.
Yeah, I have the wrong thing
We
highlighted,
don't have a
sorry, Jeff.
number,
Oh, okay.
It would be a new department.
New
We'd have a
department.
blank
Okay.
spot.
so.
It says $2,000. Am
Yeah, but there's no account number.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh,
My
the historical.
fault is-
My apologies.
No, yes.
I have my
You're right,
apologies. Yeah,
1691
okay.
is historical.
Yep. So to be determined account number.
TBD.
Is that called
It did
creative
make
accounting?
reference to C students.
I told you it was managerial accounting. What did I tell you? It was a tough one. All right, so we,
I'll second that.
Okay, so what's the motion? To approve the 2,000 as a standalone department?
that's correct. That is correct.
Okay. And there's a second.
Yes.
All in favor? Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
Perfect. Historical Commission, 1691. Was not in the original submission of the budget, so it's arguably out of guidance.
It was also out of guidance because last year we budgeted zero.
Zero, right.
So it exceeds 2.5%.
We budgeted zero last year because it got cut.
Yes.
Okay. It was,
They've requested money, but we cut it last year because we didn't have the funding.
do you off the, this is a big ask. Do you know what it was in '23?
I think it was 400.
Okay.
It's been
We've
400
generally-
for forever. Well, not forever,
But,
but
okay.
for a long time. I would make a motion to approve
Second.
Department 1691 at $400.
Second.
Second? Any discussion? None? All in favor?
Aye.
Jeff? Aye. Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Public building maintenance, item 1192. As an
Let me just find the right
out-of-guidance request as well.
Yes. Okay, so there's two parts here. The first is custodian wages. Prior to FY '25, we had budgeted the 19 hours a week when we hired the person for town custodial services, and we had to reduce it to 10 hours in FY '25. This request would restore us back to some of those hours to 15 hours per week. So that's the request, to increase the hours from 10 hours back to getting closer to what we originally had, which was 19, but this is only 15 hours, and that would add 5,193. And then the other request is on a different sheet of paper, so bear with me a second. I think there's two for that one.
There's 1,800 for reestablished BSB maintenance.
Reduce the budget to balance to the 2.5% bottom line. Some expenses increase for the anticipated building maintenance for FY '26. So we had decreased the public safety complex numbers by $1,800, so this would add it in.
So the budget with out-of-guidance request, Heather, is 72,001.
Yes,
Yes.
I agree.
Is there a motion for the public building maintenance account at 72,001?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, Jeff,
Aye.
Tony,
Aye.
Ben,
Aye.
Jeremy,
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
Thank you. Central purchasing, 1915. That was a good year.
Make a motion to approve.
I have 240,079.
Yep.
Second.
Motion to approve central purchasing at 240,079. It's been, motion's been made, it's been seconded. Any discussion? None. All in favor, Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
Aye. Bay Path Vocational High School, 1310.
While we're queuing that up, just a note, but then I'll make note in minutes, I'm going to abstain from discussion and vote on this matter because I sit on the
Yep.
PayPal board.
Aye.
So the
Yep.
record would show that Jeff is abstaining from voting and discussion because he's a member of the Bay Path Vocational School. And Jeremy has made a good point. This is the minimum local contribution that's been forwarded to us. We could hate it to death, but this is what the state has mandated to us as being our minimum contribution.
So I'll make a motion to approve line 1421 for the Bay Path, I'm sorry, line 1310 for Bay Path, assessment at 652,972.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? None. All in favor,
Abstain.
Jeff abstains.
Yeah.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
I have a quick question for you. I just did the math, central purchasing went up more than 2.5%.
Yes, but it doesn't have any people in it. We don't have a lot of control over the numbers. It's the oil, it's the gas, we can discuss it, and I'm happy to go over any of the lines.
Yeah, I just want to, it wasn't in guidance.
Correct,
So-
but so the
And-
large things such as central purchasing, insurance and so forth, I didn't pull out a guidance piece, right? Because I can't, there's nothing I can really cut from it, but I can pull it up, and if you want to go over the details, so you can see it.
No, I just want to be clean on the terminology we use, right?
Yep.
So the terminology we've used is guidance is 2.5%, anything beyond it's out. Some things we don't have control over. We understand that. I just wanted to clarify that.
Oh, it's good to know. I didn't.
Good point.
realize that.
You're not looking for reconsideration?
Nope,
right? No.
nope,
Okay.
nope.
So let the record show that it is at 3.5% and not 2.5%.
Right. So Wachusett Regional School District, account 1,300. I would say that this could take forever, or this could be very quick. I remind everybody, and sent in one of the 8 emails that I sent, was remind everybody that in this very room, in the back of the room, there was a joint working session held on October 23rd, 2024, with the town administrator, the select board, and the finance committee. And we went on record as deciding to send a letter to the superintendent of schools of the Wachusett Regional School District and the school committee and the chairman of school committee and all the like, going on record that our line in the sand, so to speak, would be 2.5%, and anything above that, we were going to subject it to an override. The original budget came in at 8.5% as opposed to 2.5%. And it's been subsequently changed to 7.99%, above 2.5%. So in some regard, don't want to put words in people's mouths, but if we abide by the letter that we sent, then we don't have much choice in terms of approval, disapproval. We could walk back that letter and reconsider what we sent out, but the record should show that we sent the letter and said 2.5%.
Yeah, I guess one question I have is we're really operating in a deficit already. We can't support our budget as it is written and all these things that we are approved. Like, we came and support it because, as I mentioned at the beginning, our income is $200K below what it was last year, even with the 2.5% increases of all these departments. So I'm trying to understand the operational logic here relative to, we can go ahead and approve it knowing that it will have to go to override, just like our budget does. So it's more of a question related to your statement.
So I think if I can try answering that a little bit, Mark.
Yeah.
So Ben, in the letter, we specifically said, anything that's over 2.5%, we're going to put forward as an override. So we didn't say to the school, we weren't necessarily not going to support whatever numbers they put forward. We said, if the assessment exceeds the town's 2.5, if it exceeds 2.5% to the town of Paxton, all number that exceeds that 2.5% would be forwarded to the override. So that number Mark has here a little bit higher at the 412. The calculation is actually 411,791. That exceeds that 2.5%. So 2.5% is written in and gets us to that 7,947,089. The recalculation of the 8,358,880 includes that 411,791. Now, keep in mind, when the school did their assessment last year, their initial assessment is what we based our warrant articles and what we voted and what we based this budget on when we were looking at the comparison. They later reduced their budget, their assessment to us, but we didn't calculate, when we were looking from comparison points, we weren't calculating that. So they actually got a benefit of the doubt right? Because we went with the original number we voted at town meeting. And 2.5% on that's a higher number than if it was at the lower assessment figure.
Yeah, I think I've decoupled those two, and maybe I can't. Right now, we're voting on, are we okay with the numbers that are put forth? The mechanism on how we fund that is the override. They're two different things.
But yeah, if we follow the letter that we sent, we would vote to approve the 7,897,117, which is the 2.5% increase, and we would vote to put 411,791 on the warrant for the. Well, actually, it's gonna go on anyways.
Right, so
We would say we would approve it or disapprove it.
that's what I'm, that's,
But I think we would do that when we do the warrant articles after they haven't been set yet, right?
so we're gonna need warrant articles to hit this budget.
Yes.
So, and we haven't voted on any warrant so I'm just trying to get the process,
Yep.
clear here. My mind, it's, okay, this is the budget that we were given, just like the other departments have. Are we okay with this? How we're gonna fund this, that's what that letter says. The letter states on how the funding will happen above 2.5%. It doesn't say anything about whether we approve or disapprove the budget. Whether we approve the article
Right.
is a separate,
We
article.
could vote to disapprove the 7,897,17 if we wanted to right now. I mean, we could.
Right, but then you might not need an article then. If we didn't approve so this is, my understanding, and I could be completely off base here, let's say we only approve a budget that's 2.5%. Not saying we should, then that whole conversation of anything above goes out, but we know that this is the budget that's being put forth. We can either approve this, the funding source is what the letter talks about, how it's funded. Or we could disapprove it and say, I don't want, and again, I think we don't want to accept whatever number they give us. And that's what it's kind of both a statement and a question.
My statement verbatim was, should the Wachusett Regional School District assessment exceed a 2.5% increase, we will present any amount over that limit as a separate warrant article requiring a vote contingent upon a Prop 2.5 override referendum to secure funding for that over.
That's the mechanism to get it. That has nothing to do with the budget. And so, well, that's my question, Mark. That's really my question. The mechanism is the override.
Yeah, I think I would answer your question in terms of, do I think we should vote the Wachusett Regional budget up or down this evening? Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do. I think we should take a position. And
As the request or as the 2.5% cap?
as the budget has been submitted,
As the 8,302?
yes.
So what's the next steps or the benefit of disapproval? Does it go back to them to be reconsidered for a lower amount? Or is it just us making
Well,
or what's the downside of it?
Yeah, you know how that works, that there are 5-member towns,
Right.
2 have to reject it.
But not at this point in the process, right?
right.
You're talking about at the town meeting,
At town
right?
meeting, it's
So-
got to be rejected.
Right.
And a year ago, the Finance Committee voted against it, the Select Board voted in favor of it, and it passed at town meeting within minutes of it failing at the Sterling Town meeting. And we were hoping that some were, not all, that we would vote against it, and that there would be those 2 towns
Right.
that would send it back for reconsideration. We've all heard the presentations, they're all well-intended, they're all good people. It's thorough presentation, but it comes down to the affordability. I've made remarks at a number of meetings where the budget 10 years ago was $81 million, now it's $129 million. It's gone up 60% in 10 years, at the same time that enrollment has gone down 12%. So the math doesn't work that way, but if you look at it from that perspective, your budget went up 60% when your customer went down 12%. There's not a private business in the world that would survive that. The other thing is they have the equivalent of our free cash. They have excess and deficiency. They have 2.7 million. They offered to put 500,000 in for the whole 5-member towns. We put 500,000 in for our town. We put all of our free cash chips in. They put a fraction of theirs. And they said they needed to retain theirs for all kinds of emergent reasons. We have the same emergent reasons. And we put our free cash in. They did not. I think that 2-member towns, maybe more, need to push this back. The only way it's ever going to be reduced is if 2 towns reject it, and now they need to address it. If 1 town does and everybody complains about it, or if there's a split vote between finance and select board, it's never going to change. And we'll have the same discussion, if not argument, every single year, and hear the same presentations, and nothing will change. It needs to change. And I know this is a source of soreness, but their discretionary increase to us went up 16%. I'd love it if we had the discretionary ability to increase our particular departments by 16%. So I'm going to vote the same way I voted for the last 5 years.
Again, I think last year, one of the things that really hurt the town was the fact that we bunched Wachusett in with everything and ended up pulling our fire department off the streets, pulling our police officers off the streets, and didn't fight back against this. This 7.99% is, I mean, we're the highest town out of the 5.
Right.
So I think that, you know, we gave them, it wasn't an ultimatum, we advised them, and I think what we were going to do with it, and it still came in very high.
But I think, if I may, just, you could support the budget, but also support the letter that was sent in October, right? So I think we'll see about the total number, but I do support the letter, which was, I believe, was unanimously agreed upon, Finance and Select Board. And that is 2.5%, the balance goes to an override. That, irrespective of the approving the total number, I think the town should stick to that. Without question. We shouldn't issue letters if we're not going to, stick to it.
But just pick up on what you said. You said we can support the budget.
I said somebody.
A given person can support the budget and support the letter. I would offer you can support the letter but not support the budget, too.
Yeah, I mean, it can go.
Yeah, right.
It can go to an override with
Yeah, you can do it.
with
Well,
a
yes.
recommendation to
Either
not
way,
approve.
Either
right?
way. I'm just saying you have it's not, just supporting the position that the town has taken, which should be supported because it was put in writing to the school district. We shouldn't waver from that. That looks foolish from a business perspective, but it means that you can also support either way on the budget, the total budget number, but it should go to the voters to make that decision,
Right, but
which is what the letter says. I mean,
I believe from procedural standpoint, we need to approve a Paxton town budget, which
Yeah, I
has a
understand.
Wachusett portion to
Yeah.
it.
Correct.
So we cannot, I shouldn't say this, we cannot, but we have to put a number there.
We technically have to put the number they submitted to us there,
Right.
because we can't assume that
It's going to be something
it's going to
different.
be something
Right,
different, or
and-
it's going to
and-
be an override. I know what.
At the end of the day, this is more procedural
Yeah.
than it
Yes.
is.
Yep.
So,
So just like any other of the cost centers, we were submitted a budget. But now, let me ask this question. No, it really wasn't out of guidance, was it? But now, do you handle this like an out of guidance or no?
We handle it as out of guidance.
yeah.
So you do, so you have a number. You've got a number that says 890, 717, and then you're out of guidance by 411, 791. That's right?
Right.
And the benefit of that too, remember, one of the debates we had last year that went on for a little bit between FinCom and Select Board when we were trying to decide on a number for an override and whether or not to include the school was, how do you know how much to put in for the school number, right?
Right.
So part of the hope was with this pre-agreement back in the fall, we have that number, right? So we're gonna know by the end of tonight, after FinCom approves all of the budgets and, finalizes revenue expenditures, we're essentially gonna know what we're out of whack, and we're gonna know what amount of that is contributing or contributed from WRSD precisely. Like Jeremy already said, it's 411,791. This is what we said the number was gonna be in October. We've got all the numbers in, we've identified that number, that's their portion of any form of an override is 411,791. So it makes life easier. And I think to your point, Ben, this is just mostly our internal document, right? People see this, but even when we release everything we vote on in town meeting, we pull Wachusett and the VOC out of it, and they go into their own articles.
Right.
So this is more of our document and just capturing the number so we know at the end of the day how much we're in the hole.
Yes and no, because if you recall, we had to have a quick vote before the last town meeting because wasn't sure if we actually approved the budget. So we do have to get this done.
We do.
Yeah,
So-
that's a good point. We did run into that last year. Yes.
So I'd like to make a motion to approve the budget as submitted with a 412 or 41191 out of guidance.
Well said.
411,791.
411,791.
Second.
So as submitted with the 411,
So do you want that final number to be 8,358,880?
Right, that was their out of guidance.
That was the total
Submission.
number between debt and the assessment when you add in that
Yep.
out of guidance number, what they have on their sheet.
So Heather, give us the 411 number again,
So 411,791,
and give us the 8 million.
8,358,880.
So there was a motion to approve that in a second. Or any discussion?
I'm a bit confused. So on all the other cost centers, we approved an out of guidance and included it in the budget. We're asking now to include the 411 as an override?
Yep.
No.
That's transactional. That's
So the-
different.
But you're asking to approve that as an out of guidance?
No, we're trying to, so to Ben's point, right, we're putting it into the whole budget. At the end of tonight's exercise, with everything approved, we're gonna know, once you guys finalize the revenues and the expenses, we're gonna know how much we're in the hole, right? We're gonna know that total number, 1 point whatever million dollars. We're also gonna know already, of that 1 point whatever million dollars that we're out of whack, of it is 411,791. So when we go into the override conversations next week between FinCom and Select Board on Wednesday, we already know the part of the override that's contributed from the school system. So it's just to break down this. This is an exercise to, number one, approve the budget. This is what they've submitted. Here's what it is. When it gets to the warrant article, who knows how FinCom will vote, yes or no on the warrant article. But at this point, it says, okay, we're going to add this in so we recognize this as part of our deficit that we're looking at. So, and we're looking at it with that 411, just like with the other budgets, when everyone said, okay, we'll add that as part and recognize that as part of it, it goes here. We haven't contributed any of the other pieces necessarily specifically to, we need an override for $15 for the town accountant. We need an override, we've said these are all, out of that 2.5%, but
So-
we're saying these are valid
Right,
expenses and we're
okay.
adding them back to the
So we're
budget.
looking to vote on approving the number as submitted at 8,358,879.
Yes, I have 880
Which
because I'm
is,
sure there's a penny.
which is
mess.
not what we asked for in the letter.
Correct, but I think what Ben has said a couple of times is, that's the transactional piece, right? We
It's
said
not a
any,
transactional piece. We asked for 2.5% and we got 7.99. Transactional irrelevant. They came back with a much higher number than what we told them we would take. And if we, and so, again, I don't want to get caught up in saying that, I think that if you vote to approve this at the 8358879, you're approving something that you said you weren't going to stand for in November.
Right.
I disagree with that, because we haven't decided how to fund it. All this is saying is you're recognizing there is an expense as submitted by this department.
We asked that the WRSD assessment to Paxton reflect a 2.5% cap. That was line 2 that we asked them.
And that's the same line we asked all the departments
It is.
as well. So I understand what you're saying, Jeremy. But we have just gone through, I don't know, 5 or 6 that we've approved.
Yep.
Instead of trying to do some other math somewhere else and create this special thing. So what, in my
Okay.
mind, and I could
You know
be
what,
wrong.
I got it. I understand.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I think it's just from we have to recognize how much we're in the hole.
Yep,
Whether we
understood.
agree or not with that expenditure, that's where the warrant articles come up.
And I think, I mean, I think even if you approve the number, we know the balance of 411,791 is going to have to go to an override. So the voters still get to make that choice, yes or no.
And we get to decide as a
Yes,
finance committee
yes.
whether you agree.
Yeah, we're voting to put this on the budget, not to approve it.
Yeah, a lot of it's just semantics.
Understood.
None of us approve of the number.
Thinking
at
ahead of
least.
myself. Thank you, Ben.
No problem. I had to clear that
Yeah, I'm
out
good.
myself.
So we got this motion is out,
That was quick and
is
easy.
out there, yep.
So I'll add to the discussion. I think the voting on the budget amount and voting on the letter and the override and the separateness of the override are separate and apart from voting on the budget tonight.
I now see that. My vision has cleared.
Right.
Because I got bogged down.
And in the budget that we're voting on tonight is $8,358,880. We're still in discussion. That's been, the motion's been made, it's been seconded. I would remind everybody, that's at 7.99%. And we wanted it to be at 2.5%. So the motion's been made and second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Jeff?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes no. Tim?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-1. Police, fire, and DPW,
So,
and
police.
snow and ice.
No, I was gonna start with police. So police has an out of guidance form. So with this, they are requesting to restore one of the cut officer positions to the tune of $82,230. And to meet the contractual obligations related to that, $8,496, totaling $90,726.
So we're at be out. Do we have looks like you're tabulating, so we're good.
So Heather, with the out of guidance, what do you have for a number?
1,298,909.
Say 809 or 909?
909.
So the problem I have with this, and I think I think everybody in the room is supportive of restoring the position, which is the budget as submitted plus the 90,726. There was a lot of fanfare a year ago and angst over cuts and the like, and unfortunately, we made it through the year, but I think everybody is looking to get us back to where we are. What I'm more and more concerned about is that there's an Anna Maria agreement between the college and the town, which is not agreements and contracts and collective bargaining and the like are not our lane, but in that agreement that's been struck with the town and the Anna Maria College, there's a budget component of that particular agreement. And I don't have the exact budget in front of me, but the total of that budget is $750,000. Now, I'm going to use 750. It could be 753. It could be 747. But that's actually part of what funds running the police department as well. That's funding that comes in from Anna Maria. If you add that to the $1,298,000, that essentially the real budget is well over $2 million. And if we were to look at all of our budgets compared, there's nothing that compares to that. It eclipses fire and DPW. I just would ask that agreement, that I think it's the model of its kind. It's in existence until June 30th, 2026. We have no authority, no responsibility to challenge it. It's a good agreement. But the budget component of it, I think somebody other than the liaison to the agreement, I think it should be at the select board level, that they agreed to the agreement, but they also agree to that annual budget that exists every single year, of which we're a budget finance committee, and we've just seen it recently, and I was struck by the amount that it is. And it goes to the police department. It doesn't go to the general fund per se, it goes to them. And if you add that with the outer guidance plus the in guidance, that's a big budget. So my message would ask the select board to sign off on that Anna Maria contract budget of being okay with it. We don't have any jurisdiction to challenge it, but I think somebody should own it at the moment. And because of that, I'm troubled, because it doesn't necessarily subsidize the police budget the way I thought that I understood the agreement to exist way back when. It seems to be adding to the budget as opposed to subsidizing it. My understanding was Anna Maria had a police department, we had a police department, and they would basically reduce theirs and at considerable savings because they would pay us. And ours would be lightened a little bit. It doesn't seem to be working that way from my view. So because of that, I'm having trouble with voting for this, but I can vote for it because this is what is presented to the town, but there's another piece out there that's not being part of the piece, and that's troubling to me. So, don't know where that gets us or takes us, but
Can I just
But I
say
got a
something?
problem.
It's already been explained by the police chief that that's a contract that is separate from the police department. The Anna Maria College is billed for the policing of their college. It's not subsidising our police department, because it's a separate entity. It's a contract, and the police chief went into detail about that. So I don't understand why you're having a problem with it not subsidising the police department. It's a separate entity, it's a contract.
What? I mean, I think it's confusing as well, if I'm being honest, and I get a lot of questions from people in town about it that I can't answer. I think it's, my understanding was always we policed the town and Anna Maria, and then Anna Maria was reimbursing us for that. But I think to Mark's point, when you actually get the details and look at it, it's really confusing to figure out. It seems like there's duplication within there, and I agree with it. I think unfairly Chief Savasta gets in here and we're talking to him. He's not doing anything. He's doing everything within accordance of these contracts, you know? So I think when these contracts are developed, like, do we have some kind of logic that goes into what we figured out? Like, does the select board or does somebody have some kind of a formula or some guidance that they know what we should be paying a police chief in Paxton? You know, is it like, do we take 10 similar towns, figure out what they're paying and say we pay 10% more? Or is it just a wide open negotiation? And then how do you factor, so I guess the questions aren't for, you know, how it's carried out on an operational basis. It's how do these two separate like contracts coexist? Because it seems like they overlap. And it really is confusing. There's a lot of conversation about it, you know, not just in these committees, but people in town that just don't. Yes, we've talked about it. Yes, it's been presented. I don't think it's crystal clear by any means in terms of, you know, the workload there versus the workload of policing the town. And the two things don't, they just seem to overlap a little bit. Because again, the more detail I saw this year, you know, my understanding was, again, that Anna Maria was part of the town. We provided comprehensive police services and Anna Maria reimbursed us. But it just seems like two kind of, like, because to me, Anna Maria is like, I don't understand the whole, like, what goes on there in the summer? Are we still policing Anna Maria in the summer? Is the call volume a lot lower? Like, there's a whole level of detail there. Because it's a separate contract, it gets confusing, you know. I'm sure I'm over-explaining it at this point, but it just.
During the summer, that's when the town benefits because we still have to, Anna Maria College still pays for their police, but they're not as used as much because there's less calls, like you're saying, there's less people and bodies on campus.
Right.
So that's when the town gets the benefit of those police officers not being fully
But
utilised over there.
is the town getting the benefit? That's where I'm confused too, or is it, that's what's always confusing to me, is the town getting the benefit? or-
Well, they're in town to be utilised if they're needed.
Right, I
That's
guess for the purpose of this committee, we're talking about financially, right? Is it optimized financially, or is there some overlap between these two contracts? I just don't know how closely anyone's looked at them, or who's, you know, who's involved, you know, it kind of, I think it is a select board thing maybe, you know, being looking at those contracts and saying, is this the most efficient way to do this? Is there, you know, should it be structured a little bit differently, like, you know, next time around from a contract perspective?
I would feel much better if annually the select board signed off on the budget and submitted it to us just as a courtesy for us to see.
Yeah, maybe that's it, right?
That's all. Because right now, it's $750,000, and is it doing the best good for the town that I think the original genesis of the agreement was intended to be? And it could very well be that is the result. It's the model of its kind in the country, but it just doesn't seem budget-wise that it's working as prescribed. It's not in our operating budget. We have no jurisdiction. We have no say, but there's no arguing that it's out there and it exists. And Carol, you said it's a separate contract, which right away is not our lane to go there, but it's a separate contract that has budget implications. So if the select board says, yep, we know about it, we like it, this is the budget that we agreed to too, we sign off on it, good enough for us, good enough for me personally. But right now, there's too much unknowing that I think leads to the confusion that maybe Tony's hearing from the same people that I'm hearing about.
Well, the police chief was here to present, and all the questions could have been asked then.
Well, I just don't think the questions are for him, is my point. Like, I think he's doing exactly what the contracts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think he's doing, I think the questions are more.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I guess there's a clause in the contract, section Section 3, subsection D, that says we can go to them if the cost of to employ the officers changes every month. Like, so once a billing cycle or go. Have we ever done that? Have we ever said, because this contract was signed in 2021 with a fixed amount. I don't see any pay escalators relative to the challenges that the chief has. So have we ever gone that said, okay, count up the heads, 4 officers, 2 full-time, 6, when in 2021, this was their salary. It is now 2025,
So the budget each year, Ben, is set.
so we reset the budget.
So at the beginning,
Okay.
before each fiscal year starts.
Okay,
Their fiscal year is the same as ours.
okay.
Sorry, Scott. Mark works with the folks at AMC to come up with the numbers.
Okay.
They're
so-
reevaluated each year.
Okay, so that's, the way we were talking, it sounded like it was a single number every,
No,
okay, so that will take all that into account. I'm okay with it.
it pays for the officers that are on site there.
Well, it actually says there are 4 officers that have to be on site. There are 2 that are dedicated, minimum 2
I mean,
dedicated.
saying what are
6 Yeah,
allocated
yeah,
to that.
yeah. Okay.
I don't think we have a motion on the table.
Yeah, I was just going to, we're still in the discussion. Before the motion comes forward, I want to go on record. I support the budget, and when the motion's made to support it, I'm going to either second or vote in favor of it. Separate and apart from that, I think there needs to be some better sharing of what this Anna Maria contract budget is all about. It's not going to change.
Hey.
I'm not going to vote against this. In fact, I support it very much. I'd love to see them fully staffed. But separate and aside from that, my raising it and Tony sharing some of that concern shouldn't cloud what the motion's going to be, which is to approve this particular budget at $1,298,909.
So I'll do just that and move that we move to approve budget item, is it 1210?
1210.
1210, Police Department, for $1,298,909. And that does include the out-of-guidance position, additional, filling of 1 FTE in the Police Department.
Motion been made.
Entertain a second from the...
Second.
Second.
Just one quick clarification. The position is being filled. What position? I know we talked about that when he was in here, but
It was cut last year.
right, what actual type of position is that? Just
Patrol.
It's a patrol officer. Okay, gotcha.
And who was the second over here? Was it
It
Ben?
was Ben. Yeah.
Motion been made and second. Any further discussion? None. Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
Okay. Fire, 2220. Didn't mean to yell out fire, I meant to say. Fire Department.
saw the crowd in the theater.
There is a budget and an out-of-compliance request for 49,500.
Looks like there's 4 line items. Reset for turnout gear, medical supplies, training, and gear and SCBA and hose testing.
Right. So the number with those out-of-compliance requests would be 1,274,204.
That's what I have.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
Mike, sorry you waited 2.5 hours for a 30-minute motion. We could have sent you an email. Department of Public Works.
Yes.
1421.
So with this, we have, let's see, I believe there's two for DPW, one for purchase services and one for supplies. So again, these are things that were pulled out because there weren't enough funds within. So this is, they had added their own column, which I think made it a little confusing when we talked last time. So you're just looking at the cost for FY '26 all the way to the right on these sheets. So under supplies, they have three things. One is signs and posts for 1,600. One is sand, stone, and gravel for 10,000. And the last is asphalt and tar for 7,500. The signs and post line item was originally 2,400 in FY '23, and we are trying to get back to the funding that's needed. I assume it was 24,000, not 2,400. Nope, sorry, I misspoke. That was it. Sandstone and gravel funds need to be increased to meet requirements of infrastructure repairs that are needed. Asphalt and tar was previously $9,000 in '22, and they're trying to, again, increase those numbers closer to what they were. So again, signs and posts, 1,600. Sandstone and gravel, 10,000. Asphalt and tar is 7,500 is what they're looking for. Oh, you know what? And I screwed this up again. I pulled the U, Mark. Look at the amount.
6,100.
Yes, because I'm looking in the wrong category, and this is driving me mental. I'm so sorry. All right, let's try that one more time, shall we? So amount submitted, oh gosh, how do I do this? Okay, it's just the difference between them. So they're looking for 6,000 more for signs and 600 more for signs and posts, 2,000 more for sandstone and gravel, and $3,500 more for asphalt and tar. All right.
That's 6,100.
Thank you, Jeremy. That one was a challenge. Sorry about that. Any questions on that I can try to answer?
So I have a question on if you go to the lead schedule, there's purchase services of 188,600, and then there's a backup page, which is the beauty of this particular budget format. There's summary pages, there's detail, and then there's detail and a detail.
Okay.
So
You
if
want the detail
If you go
page?
to the purchased services, you'll see repairs, equipment maintenance repairs a year ago was 71,739. And this year it's 132,900. A quantum leap. And at the presentation that the DPW director was here, I asked this question, that's how we got, or at least I did, get confused about the double counting. But that aside, you've gone to the CIPC committee meetings, you're a member of that. Part of the warrant article that we put forward was for the purchase of hopefully 3 used vehicles. And part of, not entirely, part of the recommendation for that, as part of our criteria, is will the purchase of new vehicles mitigate the repair and maintenance costs that you're incurring? And the hope is that you purchase the new vehicles and maintenance subsides a little bit. I know his vehicle fleet is a little bit, lack of a better word, odd at the moment because some are out of service, some are taken out of service for repair. It just strikes me that number almost nearly doubling from a year ago is higher than it needs to be, given what the understanding is of the CIPC. Having said that, I would go on record as saying that DPW has been the ugly stepchild for about 5 years, and it's time to kind of ramp them up and give them the tools and the equipment and the personnel they need. But that shouldn't be at the risk of over-budgeting something that, at my view of matters, given all the understanding that I have and all the discussions that I've made, I think it is high. Now, it's not $1.221 million high, so it's not going to balance the budget. And if it's only going to be reduced by $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000, then I'll withdraw my conversation. But from 80 to where am I? From 71 to 133, that just seems to be a big leap. So. And I did ask the question the other evening, and I think the answer was no, that at the present time, they were of the opinion that they needed it. Could be. But the hope of acquiring 3 new vehicles was intended not to eliminate, but to mitigate that, but not double it. So that's my problem. Which it's not such a problem that I'm going to withdraw a vote, I'm just raising a question. If nothing else, I'd like the minutes to reflect that I think that number's high.
Okay.
And reserve the right to say I told you so in a year.
Well, when I write these on Saturday night, I will
Okay.
note that.
Right.
4 more days left in the world.
So on the purchase services, the total request for out of guidance is actually, the numbers here is wrong, it's a little bit less, it's 106,700. It is 12,600 more for equipment maintenance, 10,000 more for garage maintenance, $1,600 more for safety training, 30,000 for line painting that was eliminated in FY '25, 47,500 that didn't exist for guardrails in '25, and $5,000 for rental equipment, which had been zeroed out in '25.
So question is, what's the number?
902,194.
So when you said last week that a little bit is in there twice, a little bit was in there twice. Okay,
I said that?
I thought you did. And that's when I bet you the cup of coffee. Anyways, is there a motion
Oh,
to
yeah.
approve? And is there a motion to approve the number as just read?
So moved.
DPW. There's a motion that's been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Jeff?
I'm sorry.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
Okay. Snow and ice. 1423. That is,
203 versus 202 last year?
Move to approve.
motion to approve snow and ice at $203,000.
Second.
Motion's been made and second. Any discussion? None? All in favor, Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we have, Mark, there's a couple more that didn't make it to your sheet. I tried to highlight them. The next one is streetlights, which is the next one down. We didn't vote last week. This is 21,921. This is the number that we get from the light company. They give us the number at the beginning of the year. So as long as we don't add any lights, this is our assessment, and we pay it on a monthly basis. So
So
21,921.
hold up one second. What's the account number?
1424?
Yeah, 21,921. Make a motion to approve.
Second?
Motion been made and second. Any discussion? None. All in favor, Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
Okay, so the other one that we held off on last week, just to see if I could be hopeful and get more info, was employee benefits. So this is the health insurance line.
Account
Again,
number, please.
this is 1910. So this line, we were hoping to kind of keep the numbers down, and we did. This current year, we budgeted higher. I think we had a lot of people last year when we originally did the budget for FY '25 that were planned to be on the health insurance plans, and either through folks that had left town or new people who came on. We found, the laws that are currently out there that, folks under 26 might have the opportunity to stay on their current parents' plan. Does reduce people who might be younger joining the workforce and needing health insurance. So it does help keep the numbers down. That being said, we budgeted for next year's health insurance a little bit tighter. We still have 2 extra family plans and 2 individual plans that are built in. We have at least 1 employee coming on board that we know is going to need health insurance, and we believe there are going to be a few other positions that are currently in the process of being filled, and we don't know if those individuals will opt in. And we do like to keep 1 or 2 just in case that someone jumps. Most of the time, it's not an issue, right? We usually wash with health insurance. Same number, someone will come on, someone will go off, and it will balance out. But this year, we just wanted to be a little proactive on that, so the numbers are presented here. You will see we have unemployment insurance built in. Interestingly enough, last year, we had originally been concerned about it, went through everything, any layoffs we had to do, we were minimally impacted by it. Then we had a long-term employee who left the town, went to work for another municipality, was there for a very short period of time. Appears they may not have contested unemployment, and the town got a very large assessment. So proactively, we are sticking $10,000 in here in case we need it for unemployment. Please note that that employee is costing the town well more than $10,000. But at least if we budget the 10,000 and we get small pieces, we can handle most of them. And as we're doing this year, we have money in health insurance that we're moving to unemployment to cover. We also always look anytime the person is of a different department, for instance, the water department or, the light department, something like that. Wherever we can, we would try to assess those departments if they can handle the cost. So total number I have is $760,430.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
So the last item we have is just the tree warden. So if we're looking at potentially adding 10,000 more or some combination of additional money to the tree warden budget to handle trees.
Count number, Heather?
Count 1, 2, 9, 5. Do you have them all color-coded, Mark?
Huh?
Are yours all color-coded?
Not exactly.
Okay, so 1, 2, 9, 5. So if we were to add some combination, the FinCom did vote on this last week, so you'd have to modify
We
your.
voted last week at 4,025.
Yes. So I don't know if FinCom is interested to increase purchase services to the total of 10,000 or to increase it by an additional 10,000 or 0, I don't know.
Was there a specific request put in?
So
My intent was to increase it to 10,000.
And I did reach out to Kirk today after that conversation, said, there's a question about whether or not you feel you have enough for funds for trees. And a crystal ball that's very conservative, what number would you need? He believes that $10,000 for trees at least allows him to have enough to handle the emergencies as they arise.
Right.
Or some of the emergencies as they arise.
So that would mean that our
Purchase
Summary-
services would go up to 9,000 from 3,025.
right, so we would be approving $10,000, but our summary page where we put in 10,000, we would not, we would be only putting in the difference.
5975.
Right.
So our deficit went down by $4,000. Good work. Is there a motion to approve the tree warden?
I'll make a
account?
motion to amend line 1295 from last week at 4,025 up to 10,000 by increasing Purchase services to $9,000, for a total of 10.
Motion's been made. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor. Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
Okay.
What's the number?
Should be pretty
It's a
close
vote.
to your score chart.
Huh?
Should be pretty close to your.
While you're just getting those numbers together, can I just say something? Because the DPW director's not here to say anything.
Carol, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Can I just say something? The purchase services for the DPW, they have gone up extremely from FY25. But if you look at FY24, they were 180,561. So it's only gone up 8,000 in 2 years. So it's not a great jump. It's just restoring what he had cut last year. And you can imagine if you have 50,000 cut out of your budget, you're going to need to get the money at some point to get to where you need to be. So I don't think it's a great jump saying that in FY24, the budget was 180,000 and now he's asking for 188. Just a point. I know you passed it and everything. I just want to make that known.
But we voted to approve it.
I said that.
So Heather, are you recalculating the moving target, bouncing ball?
I'm sure
deficit
trying.
number?
How close this was.
Is that
was the spreadsheet.
that was the that was on that spreadsheet.
Right, that included all the breakdowns. It's, it was like one of his last.
Those are all out of guidance.
What was it called?
Yeah,
The deficit.
something like that. So is
It was gonna be
the only change from the out of guidance numbers to reduce the amount for the tree warden. So it puts the out of guidance numbers at 719,206. Which means I still have a number, oh, that's why. We'll just type it in, 719,206. Okay. Add one negative. All right, so I'm showing right here, and, you know, we're gonna wanna double check this before next week, but I'm showing 1,130,268.
I think, what would we say, at a million?
Our total, that's what we're in the hole.
That's we're in the hole. That's the red.
13268.
Yes.
32.
Obviously, tomorrow, when
So-
it's not 9:37 at night, I will
Yeah, no, I
pull it
I
apart and double
appreciate
check
that.
it.
So Mark, you were close. You had 1129.
The, we need a motion to approve the revenue number.
Can we ask for more?
So everyone should have a copy of the revenue calculation sheet as part of the handout, so this has not changed from the past several weeks.
So is indeed the number 16,209,541?
Yes, and that is inclusive of 400,000 of ambulance receipts and 500,000 from free cash.
Correct. And that's the number that you used to recalculate your deficit number just a minute ago.
Correct.
So is there a motion to approve the revenue calculation sheet having a total revenue number of 16,209,541?
541.
One.
540.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor? Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
Aye. Perfect. So. I think that concludes our
First half,
particular.
that concludes the first half of it.
Plenty of time left.
Okay, so we've got budget deficit status to date, we've done that, review and vote to approve.
Right.
Schedule.
So I think the only thing we do is remind everybody of a meeting next Wednesday, April 2nd, a joint meeting with the Select Board. Talk about essentially the override and the budget where we've landed. So, before we adjourn, Tim, thank you very much for staying in there with us. I know you're uncomfortable, but we appreciate your being with us as long as you have. Thank you very much.
I'm glad to be back. Thanks, Mark.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
Old business,
Old business, new business?
business.
Public session?
public comment.
Okay,
Move to adjourn.
Second.
second. No discussion. All in favor? Jeff?
Aye.
Tony?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Jeremy?
Aye.
Mark votes aye. Tim?
Aye.
We stand adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.